departments, no? And one of the USECs is being alleged to deposit 50 million in his bank account as a lagay from ganyan. Will this now be a practice of the Office of the Ombudsman to write the AMLAC and ask them to give you the information?
For as long as there are leads that indeed these charges are meritorious, then we will certainly do that, Your Honor.
Ma'am, just as last line of questions.
May I request the gentleman to wrap up?
Sir, may be allowed one last.
Yeah. Proceed.
If you read, ma'am, the AMLAC law, as you said, no, it's maybe I should ask the executive director of AMLAC, because
That's
what
right.
you simply did is to ask him for it and they gave it to you, no? But
To ask for data.
for the data, ma'am,
Bearing on the
yes,
financial transactions and related transactions.
which is within your powers, and they did give it to you. But when we asked him, maybe he did not understand or he did not think that to suggest that we course it through the Office of the Ombudsman. The thing, ma'am, is that there are prohibitions in law, including, for example, the bank secrecy. So, for example, ma'am, I signed a waiver in my SAL-N. But, of course, I still have my constitutional rights. So, for example, if you ask the PNP or the NBI for help to do some investigation on my office, that doesn't mean that the police can enter my office without a warrant and they cannot say, I have a waiver that you signed in your SAL-N and it was given to the Ombudsman, because I still have the right against unreasonable searches and there is no probable cause, no warrant. Is that correct, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So in the same way, ma'am, where do we draw the line? What information the AMLAC can give the Office of the Ombudsman? When is it unreasonable for them? Because in the past, they've always interpreted Supreme Court decisions to say that when it is a covered transaction, they cannot look into it yet until there is a predicate crime, until there is probable cause, and until AMLAC is unanimous, the three officials, into investigating. And in the past, they have interpreted giving information as an investigation report rather than just data. I think, ma'am, that is the uneasiness in the balance between giving you all the powers to go after after grafters and after corrupt public officials. On the other hand, making sure that the power is not abused or, well, not abused, but
With
it's not
the indulgence
arbitrary.
of the gentleman, these issues are not cogent to the impeachment process we are here. This is not in aid of legislation. We are trying a case of impeachment. So, if we want to amend the laws in order to adopt certain policies, we'll have to take that up as a legislative body. But we must concentrate, focus our attention to the matter at hand, and that is the impeachment case before us.
Thank you, Mr. President, for that reminder, because what I was going through is that if this is a product of an illegal search, then this is not admissible. But if it is covered by the waiver, then it is admissible. But I would agree with you, Your Honor, that it is partially not included. But I think it is of grave national importance because
we have to bear in mind, with your indulgence, that the witness was subpoenaed at the behest of the defense. And she was here primarily as a witness for the defense, although they qualified her as a hostile witness. So they're bound, the defense is bound by the revelations of the witness during the direct examination as well as during the cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Mr. Presiding Officer, I know the Ombudsman to be only hostile to grafters and corrupt people in government, but I just wanted these issues ventilated so that we would know when we analyze the evidence. But secondly, I just thought, Mr. President, in my view, that this is of grave national and political importance for our country, because this is the first impeachment in how many decades. But anyway, I'll stop there, Mr. President, because my time is up. But may I solicit a view from the Ombudsman? Ma'am, where do we draw the line between it is just data or it is... So what can the AMLAC give you and what can they not give you?
Well, the question should be addressed to the AMLAC.
Okay.
Because we give them copies of complaints, and if they determine that the request of the Ombudsman is in order, then they do that. If they don't, then they will write the ombudsman citing the reasons why they cannot give the data, financial data or related transactions.
Actually, the rules of evidence govern in these proceedings, not in the case of inquiries in aid of legislation. And evidence is admissible if not excluded by the rules of evidence or by a statute, particularly an express provision of a statute. There's none in the bank secrecy laws that says that evidence illegally obtained in violation of those bank secrecy laws are excluded evidence in any proceeding.
Thank you, Mr. President. I agree, and thank you for the opportunity to just come up with all of this, to elaborate on all of these issues. But since we'll be taking up the amendments to the AMLAC law anyway, I'll address my questions there. Thank you, Madam Ombudsman.
Thank you too,
Thank
Mr.
you.
President.
Senator.
President.
Next.
Senator Legarda earlier reserved, but she has withdrawn because the question has been posed already. So may we recognize Senator Francis Pangilinan instead?
The gentleman from Pampanga.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Just one question and then a manifestation, Mr. President. The question is to the Madam Ombudsman. Just very quickly, without this waiver signed by the Chief Justice, would you have been able to request for these transactions, these reports from the AMLAC?
I would have, Your Honor, just the same. Under the Ombudsman law, that it allows me to, and even under the Constitution, to request assistance from agencies in connection with the discharge of my mandate.
So even without the waiver, the documents would have been accessible to the Ombudsman?
Yes, it would have been accessible, but whether or not the AMLAC would have provided me is a different story.
My question, therefore, is, and I don't know if it's your office or the AMLA who would be able to answer this. Was the waiver the basis for the AMLA for turning over the documents to your office?
They did not cite any waiver, any reason for giving the documents to me, because in my letter I said in connection with the charges that have to do with violation of the Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, Money Laundering Act, for future proceedings, then that was the reason why, that was the basis of our request for financial transactions and related transactions. Now, whether they based it on the Ombudsman law or on the SAL and
Waiver.
authority given to the Ombudsman to determine the existence of other properties, I really don't know.
The reason why I raised that question, Madam Witness, is that during your examination, I'm not sure anymore whether it was the direct examination or the cross-examination, you, and the records will bear me out, you mentioned this waiver twice in explaining the access to, may we therefore be enlightened as to how valuable is this waiver with respect to your work in this respect?
It's very valuable, Your Honor, because it authorizes me. In other words, the consent is there. There should be no doubt that he authorizes me to look into his assets, again, properties.
Because I would think to be able to reconcile these Republic Act 6426, the confidentiality of that consent, written consent, in fact, is necessary. And I'd like to think that this would suffice as written consent, but not to the banks, because this is, of course, government agencies in that respect. I'd like to correct that. The other, Mr. President, is, thank you, Madam Witness. The other, Mr. President, is just a manifestation. In pursuing the earlier point raised by Senator Gingona, there is another item that we noticed here, and therefore we will discuss, we hope to be able to discuss this during the caucus. But just for the record, there is an account of, account number 11505, and the amount on 2003, October 2003, there was a deposit of 12 million Again, this is a Philam bond fund. And then there was a BYMF in 2004, 521,000 pesos. And then another BYSLMF, I believe this is the same, 11,505 on 2005, January, February, March, April, 10 million. So this is another account that is not a deposit, and therefore, perhaps during the caucus on Monday, we may discuss the subpoenas requested by Senator Gingon.
Okay.
Mr.
Madam
President.
Floor Leader.
Yes, may we recognize Senator Greg Onasan, please.
Madam Ombudsman, good afternoon po.
Good afternoon.
I'm not the one to educate you about the Philippine Constitution, but let me share this with you just the same. Article 3, or the Bill of Rights, Section 1 of the Constitution states that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall any person be denied the equal protection of the law. Although this is a political process, my interpretation, my understanding is that the law should be applied equally to all those who are similarly situated. And as a Senator Judge, I would like to have the peace of mind that the Chief Justice is not being singled out here. So let me ask my very brief questions. If you know, Madam Ombudsman, ma'am, no? How many cases are now pending with the Ombudsman?
Cases against officials and...
Opo. If that is available.
Do we have the statistics? Let me just look at my records here.
Yes, ma'am.
Complaints as far as 2011 is concerned.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, to abbreviate, I only have 2 minutes.
Yes.
Just one big round figure, total number of cases.
Are you referring to high-profile cases?
Everything, the works. Mga ilan po?
We are still preparing the statistics for the June, for the State of the Nation address of the President.
Pero marami po, ma'am. Marami.
Definitely, I inherited a lot.
Okay.
Thousands, tens of thousands.
I'm happy with that answer. Has the Office of the Ombudsman also requested the assistance of the AMLAC in relation to other cases pending with the Ombudsman, particularly those involving ill-gotten wealth-related graft cases?
Well, as far as the case against the Chief Justice is concerned, if I recall it correctly, that is the first that has come through me during my incumbency.
Opo.
I did not go over the records of pending cases if they involved unexplained wealth and if the assistance of the AMLAC was solicited.
Opo. Thank you, Madam Ombudsman. In fact, that would be my next question. How many times